The maker of sleep apnea machines has agreed to pay $479 million to settle claims related to a recall. The law firm handling the class action lawsuit says Philips Respironics has agreed to reimburse the cost of affected devices. Its 2021 recall indicates use of some ventilators, CPAPs, and BiPAP machines can lead to health problems. They contain foam that can break down, possibly causing the user to inhale or swallow particles or chemicals. The FDA says it has received more than 100,000 complaints, including reports of at least 385 deaths. The settlement does not cover personal injury claims. More information about the recall is on the FDA's website.